Have you ever wondered why there is a red dragon on the national flag of Wales? Well, we are here at Dinas Emerys in Snowdonia National Park, and we're going to find out. This is a legend of kings, dragons and wizards, and a boy called Merlin. Let's go. Well, here we are, my friends. Welcome back. We made it. We are at Dinas Emerys in Wales, in Snowdonia National Park, and we're following the folklore of the land, the Aboriginal dreaming of Britain, and it has brought us here to Dinas Emerys. Now, Dinas Emerys in Welsh roughly translates as the stronghold of Ambrosius. Ambrosius Merlin, who you and I know as the wizard Merlin. He is associated with this place. So we're going to go on a little walkabout. We're going to explore this hill, this stronghold, and the archaeology, and then I'm going to tell a story. Two stories, actually. Both contain dragons, two dragons, and both stories segue together in this very place. Myth rooting into landscape right here in North Wales. This beautiful spot, there's a river running by here, nice ash tree here. So I'm really excited about this day's exploration and stories. We just got here last night in the van. I think you can see Nero in there, and the stars were beautiful last night, and you could see the constellation of the Great Bear, Ursa Major, at the Plough or the Big Dipper. It was just sinking into this hill behind me, just setting into the hill. So it's like the blessing of King Arthur in this place. The Great Bear is sinking into Dinas Emerys in the sky. The story I'm about to tell up on this hill is about the boy wizard Merlin, before he got entangled in the mythos of King Arthur and a certain king called King Vortigern that was trying to build his stronghold up on this hill here. So we're going to take a look around that. But first of all, I'd like to tell you a much older myth about dragons in the landscape and how they found their way under this hill. And this is the story about the red dragon on the flag of Wales. This story is called Two Dragons.
Two beings in flight, circling, one is day, the other night, and it begins. One brings ice, the other fire. We wonder if they'll ever tire. And every bell attains sunrise. The plague on the land has returned. They scream their curses, and we lose everything that we know.
Long ago, long ago, in deep time, in the myth time, in the Aboriginal dreaming of Britain, which is somehow out of time, there was a king, a great king, and his name was Merlin, and he had four sons, four great and noble sons, and the eldest of these sons, tall and strong and straight and true, his name was Llewelyn, or as we say now in English, Ludd. So King Llewelyn, King Ludd, went on to become King of Britain, and he was a good king. This is in the deep time, in the age of myth. Now, Ludd's reign was long and prosperous, and he did many great things, and his reign started really well. He founded or rebuilt the city of London, built it with fresh new walls and towers, and London still bears his name today, Ludden. So things were good during the reign of King Ludd. The land flourished, the fish leapt in the stream, the deer were plentiful on the hill, all things were good, the crop grew mighty and tall. But sometime into the reign of King Ludd, things went a little bit wrong. 3 plagues descended on the island of Britain. This story here concerns us with one of them, and it was this. Every Beltane night, every May Eve, at the very beginning of spring, when the flowers should have been in full bloom and the sheep should be baaing and getting all furtive with one another, a shriek would emanate from the land. Every year, the same time, May Eve, it would emanate from the land, shriek across the mountain tops, and every hearth, every fireplace in Britain would emit this terrifying shriek. This shriek would have a devastating effect on anyone that heard it. Animals would become infertile, birds would drop from the sky, the fish would no longer swim upstream to lay their eggs, and men and women that heard it would suddenly become weak and infertile and wouldn't really, feel the music, if you hear what I'm saying. And the land began to ail. The crops would not grow, food was not grown, and everyone became very, very, very morose. And King Ludd, realised he had to do something, but he didn't know what was causing this scream that was emanating from the land itself. But he knew someone who would know what to do. It was his youngest brother, whose name was Llefelys. And Llefelys just so happened to be King of France. So King Llefelys set off in a great fleet of ships across the Sleeve, over the English Channel, in many, many ships of brocaded sails, their flags fluttering in the breeze, and King Ludd's ship was at the very front of them, riding across the mead dark sea. And riding towards him from the coast of Gaul was his brother, King Llefelys, and he was riding at the foot of a whole fleet of ships, and they met one another in the middle of the English Channel, and the two kings' ships went out to meet one another. "Ahoy there!" said King Ludd to his younger brother. "Well met, brother, on these waves." "What is it? What help can I do for you? I come for some advice," said King Ludd. "Well then, you'd better speak it into this long brass horn," said his younger, clever brother. "The reason is this. Out on the water there are spirits and energies that might hear, and if a king speaks of his deep problem, they might use that information against you and make the land even more sick. But Llefelys, the clever king, the king of France, he had a certain little plan. He said, speak into this horn and then no one else can hear, and I'll hear you and then you can speak back the answer." Llefelys spoke the problem through this long brass horn that was suspended between their two ships bobbing on the sea. Problem was, there was a sort of goblin living inside that horn, a kind of duende, an elf, spirits of malcontent. It had gotten inside the horn. So King Ludd would speak of his problem. There's this shriek happening every May Day, and all Llefelys would hear is, "You've got a stupid beard, and I don't like your wife, and your dog is rubbish, and you've got shit ears." Llefelys is going, "Oh, hang on, this is a bit weird." And he realises the problem. He realises there's a goblin inside there. So he flushes out that little demon with wine. And it goes plop into the sea and away. The impediment to their communication having been flushed away, King Ludd could now communicate his dilemma to his little brother. And he did. He said, "There is a problem. Every May Eve, this shriek emanates from the land, and all of my kingdom becomes infertile. Whoever hears this scream emanating from the very earth just doesn't feel the mood, you know? Whether they are birds or bees or people. Llefelys said, I got you. You got a problem with dragons. Dragons? Said Ludd. Yes, said Llefelys. There are 2 dragons fighting under the soil in the Kingdom of Britain. One dragon, your dragon, is being attacked by a foreign dragon that has come from over the seas. And because of this, the land is unwell. And every Beltane, they screech and the land becomes ill. What you need to do is this, said Llefelys. You need to go back to Britain and find the very centre, the omphalos, the heart of the island. The very, very centre. And there, dig a big pit. Fill that pit with mead. Only the good stuff, not the cheap plonk, just the finest honey wine available from your whole kingdom. Fill that whole hole up. You need a lot of it. Then cover the hole with silk, and you will find next May Eve, above that pit, 2 dragons will be fighting. And they will fall into that pit and you will catch them in the cauldron. You must wrap them in the silk blanket and bury them. Bury them somewhere in your kingdom, I don't know where, but somewhere where they will never be discovered. Right, okay, that's some very specific instructions, said King Ludd. Thank you, brother. You're welcome, bro. So King Ludd sailed away back to the island of Britain, over the sparkling oceans, back to the island of the mighty, back to Albion. This place. And once he landed on these shores, he immediately got his druids and his geomancers to work to measure the length and breadth of the island of Britain. So, they went to work, they measured the island. Maybe they had one of those, those wheels on a stick that goes measuring they must have invented those, the ancient Britons, I don't know. And they measured the island northwest, south and east, and eventually found the very centre of the island of Britain, which, as you all know, is, of course, Oxford. I don't know why, but it is. That's the story, so that's how it is. Maybe the geomancers going up north had really long legs and the ones going south had really short legs, so I don't know. But anyway, they found the centre of the island, somewhere near the Ridgeway in southern England, not far from where Tam and I are from. And a great pit was dug. May Eve was approaching. A huge pit was dug somewhere near the River Ox and a forest and the green hills of southern England. Huge pit was dug, and then a vast silver cauldron was sunk into that hole. And then all the mead from across Britain was gathered. A great decree was made, and all the mead from every drinking hall and tavern and farmstead from across the land was gathered. All the mead that had been saved up through these periods of plague and famine, all of it was poured into that vast cauldron. Gallons and gallons and gallons and gallons and gallons of it. Glug, 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 glug. And then all of the silk from across the Silk Road, from all the way across, from every noble household, every noble woman's silk shawl was gathered from across Britain, and it was all sewn together in a patchwork quilt that stretched all the way over that cauldron. It was pegged down. Then King Ludd and his druids and wise men and magicians, they waited. It was May Eve, and the sun had risen, and they waited in a great ring around the pit of mead, waited until the sun climbed in the sky, until it was at the very zenith. It was right up there. And the druids and the wise men and the councillors and King Ludd himself still waited. silence descended. And there, high above them, the wise men looked up. There was a bird of prey circling. Maybe a red kite circling, circling, circling. And everything went still. Something was about to happen. The air became electric, just watching that bird circling. Then, out of nowhere, a crow dive-bombed that kite. Vroom, and it wheeled in the sky, and as it did, everything shifted. It's like the whole landscape of the world just tilted on its axis, and everything went vroom. That bird, those two birds locked in combat, the crow and the kite. And there, out of a thicket, a great boar burst out of the forest, and it was being chased by hunting men and wild dogs. A great mastiff was chasing that boar, and then that boar turned in its heels and charged down at that dog, and they were locked in combat. There on the hill, a great herd of stag, a great deer was being attacked by a wolf, a lone wolf. A great antlered stag and the wolf doing mortal combat. Only one of them will live. Here in the stream, a pike leaps, being chased by an otter. Old enemies doing battle in the stream. Here on the ground, an adder rode over the foot of King Ludd's chief druid, and it reared up, being chased by a stoat. All the animals were fighting in the sky, in the earth, in the water, in the forests around, and in the minds of the druids. Everything shifted and changed. Everything was in flux, in turmoil. And then those two birds transformed, all the animals transformed into two serpents, wheeling in the sky. One red, one white, one ice, one fire. They were wheeling in the sky, wheeling in the sky. They turned into two dragons. The red one set the hillside ablaze with fire. The white one breathed ice that froze the whole river still. Those fighting dragons, setting the hills ablaze to ice and fire, tired themselves in the sky and whirled and twirled down, down, down into two snakes again, and they fell right on top of that silk sheet, sunk down into the cauldron of mead, and exhausted, drunk up the whole cauldron, drunk it up, every last drop, and fell asleep. They fell asleep there in that cauldron of mead, and King Ludd wrapped up the two little pigs, because they turned into two little piglets. He wrapped up those little pigs in a mead-sotted silken blanket, and they were placed into two chests, two great stone chests, and on rollers, and with many men and horses and oxen, they were carried west, far away, along the ridgeway, these two sleeping charges, these mead-covered pigs, all the way into Wales, over the Severn Bridge, over the M4, along this road here, into North Wales, to this place, right here, this mountain in front of you, and they were placed inside a cave beneath this mountain. It's called the Stronghold of the Pharaoh in old times. Not anymore. We'll get to that story soon. Those two little pigs, those two little sleeping dragons were interred in that mountain, and a great rock was covered over, and they would never be uncovered again. As long as those dragons will be at rest, Britain will have peace and fertility. And sure enough, that screech never came again, and abundance returned to Britain. The salmon leapt in the stream, the corn and crops grew high, men and women had good cheer together, the population expanded, the economy grew by 3.9%. All was good. There were no shit movies on Netflix anymore. Everything was a golden age, as long as those dragons will never be released.
Sleep
So there it is. 2 dragons. So that story is very, very old. It's also called the 3 Plagues of Britain. Told that story on this channel. The 3 Plagues of Britain. So that story is called 2 Dragons. It's also called the 3 Plagues of Britain, or Llewelyn and Llefelys. So I've told that story on this channel before, the full version, so I'll put a link to it with a bit of context, filmed around Oxford with Tam and I having a gallivant around it. I just told the dragon element of that story because that's the bit that relates to this hill here. So those dragons remained under this hill for a long time, many a century, out of the dreaming, out of the myth time, and into something resembling history, when those dragons were unearthed in about the year 500 AD-ish by a king called Vortigern, and a strange, miraculous boy who you and I know as the wizard Merlin. So I'm going to tell the second part of this story up there on Dinas Emerys, the mountain that once had 2 dragons interred beneath them. So we're going to go on a little walkabout up there, see what archaeology there is to explore, what mystery, and I'm going to tell the next part of the story. Right, when in Wales, you need to make a Welsh cawl, a traditional lamb broth. So we got the lamb broth there, we've got the onions in there, we've got the potatoes going in, new potatoes, carrots, oops, lost one, and of course, no cawl would be complete without a leek, national symbol of Wales, along with the daffodil and the dragon. Just the white part of the leek for now. We'll do the green bit later. Oh, and some herbs do Wales. We've got to decide which cheese we're going to have. This is the big decision. We're going to have a nettle cheese or a leek cheese. Well, this one's cheddar and we are in Wales, so I think it's probably got to be the leek. So this has been cooking up nicely now, so it's probably time to add the broth. Already stripped the meat off it. This is from our lamb chops last night. Waste not, want not. So I've got to get that in there. There's the broth there, look. Chuck that in too, that's the nice tender meat. That is going to be tasty. The real question now is which beer to have. One has a knight on it, one a dragon. I suppose the dragon would be most fitting given the locality we are in. We're putting the green bit of the leeks in now towards the end, and some kale. Kale is not traditional for a cawl, but Tamsin insisted it went in there.
Good for you.
So in that goes. Oh yeah. Give that a nice bit of a stir. Oh, might need a bit more water. That is lovely. That's smelling delicious. And some cheeky spring onions, just for a bit of a garnish. There we go. All wooden accoutrements made by Tamsin. Yeah. Bit of Welsh cheese. Bit of spring onion.
Ooh, yummy.
So here we are at base camp, about to ascend Dinas Emerys, the stronghold of Ambrosius. This is the National Trust car park just outside the Welsh town of Llewelyn. There we are. think they're building a visitor centre or dismantling one. So this castle has remains from the medieval era, built by Prince Llewelyn in the 13th century, most likely. This is Prince Llewelyn, I reckon. Look, he's saying, build me a castle. But the fortifications are much earlier. They go back to the Dark Ages, the early medieval era, around the 5th century in King Arthur's Britain. And bits of the stronghold might be even earlier, going back to the Iron Age, the Celtic Iron Age. So a very complex place, archaeologically speaking, even before we get to talk of dragons. So, we're going here. Archaeological site.
Honestly, you won't miss it.
Oh, really? I don't know what that means.
I think it means rocky.
Every melting sunrise, plague on the land has returned. They scream their curses. We lose everything that we've known.
Now there's been dragons at work here, uprooting trees. Blimey. We're on the trail, we're hunting dragons in the land. Where?
Yeah.
Ah, didn't take us long to find a dragon. It's a pretty ignoble end for a great worm. You found a feather? You got a dragon totem, babe. This trail does feel a little bit prehistoric. Kind of forget that you're in Britain walking through here. Look at this. Wild raspberries. Food for a young boy wizard called Emerys. Look at that. I think this is medieval field system, like sheep enclosure, I'm guessing. I say medieval, this could only be a few hundred years old. Don't know when there was last sheep up here though. Another boundary line. Passing through boundaries from the real world into the myth world as we go further up on the sacred mountain.
Stronghold!
The views are getting pretty nice already. If I was a dragon, I would like to live up here, flapping about the mountains. Oh no, wait, they're locked in a box, aren't they? Can't see much. What's this? Sweet chestnut? Look at that.
Still only for nuts though.
There's something about this place. You can just feel the magic. You can feel the fairy tale. It's dripping in just something. You can't quite put your finger on it, but it feels deep and old. Is that a nice bit of spoon carving wood?
Yeah.
Oh, we could take that back to the van.
Nice bit of that.
There's a cheeky bit of birch there. Holly bush on the stream. Uh-oh. Well done. You crossed the stream. No witches can follow you. Look at this bit of dry stone wall. Using the local stone. Oh yeah, looks like a little storytelling area. Would you like to be a shepherd living on this hillside?
Can we buy that?
Could ask the farmer, I suppose, if we see him. So I think this is Dinas Emerys, just to our left here, this peak. You can't really see the top of it. We should see some fortifications soon. There is the square base of a medieval tower, I think. That was what was laid out possibly by Prince Llewelyn, who built loads of castles in Wales whilst he was fighting the English. But there is an older bit to it, an older bit which is from about the 5th century, and even a pre-Roman bit as well, an Iron Age bit, which is where the pool is, which is where these two dragons were supposedly discovered, unearthed, and where they were interred by King Ludd in the dream time of Britain. Ah, so that looks like a bit of a crumbling fortification right there. But we're not at the top yet.
Also, if you see, the heritage trail says keep going.
Ah, okay.
And so does Glaston.
Could just be a rocky outcrop, I suppose. There he is. Robin went back for his little worm there. There he is, on the path. He's got his worm. Well done, little dragon in bird form. Wow. An amazing bit of that story of King Ludd and the two dragons is that bit in the story, isn't it? And this is a bit of the story that's completely ancient. I would say goes right back to prehistory, maybe even the Bronze Age, Proto-Indo-European myth. This bit of the two dragons fighting and getting caught in the vat of mead, and the fact that they begin as all these animals just fighting. So it's like whenever you see an animal in the natural world, is that its visible form, but actually it's something deeper. It's spirit in the land. It's dragon energy. So heritage trail that way. Or up over the hill. Another rocky outcrop. Wonder if this is it. Would you build a fortress here if your name was Vortigern? Oh, thank you, Vortigern, for this stepping stone bridge. Could have been the National Trust, I suppose, but I'm going with King Vortigern. Such an ancient landscape. I wonder if there's anything up here. How spongy that moss is. Here we are, at the top of something. There's another rocky peak up here. I'm just going to scramble up there and see what I can see. Don't want to trust this moss too much. There's a modern day dragon in the sky somewhere. Oh. My position has been bombed. Fucking hell. This clearly has been put here, this dry stone wall here, and it is not for sheep, clearly, up here. So this is something, but what it is, I don't know. Oh, there we go. Okay. Quite overgrown up here. I think that is just a sheep pen. Yes, it is. You can see the little sheep in it. What an interesting little summit. Look at that view. I'm glad I came up here. Struggling over a fence. Ow. Oh, my knackers. Oh, dragon's claws in my bits. Ah! It's forbidden. It's hill magic in this place. Oh, now this is interesting, look. It's a kind of rocky little summit right here. I wonder if the child, Merlin, the boy Ambrosius, once stood on this knoll. Ah, there's the farmer, look. Okay. Imagine living there. Yeah. So I don't think this is of archaeological significance. Good view, though. You can see why barbed wire took over from dry stone walling. A lot easier to put up, and has the added benefit of tickling your bollocks when you climb over it. See, this though is definitely something that's been piled here. Look at that. It's like quartz in that. Dragon egg. Right, how do I get through this? Oh, fucking hell. Yeah, there is archaeology under here of some kind. Because it's all lumpy. This, look. Something up here. Oh. Another fallen tree. Little snack here, look. This is wood sorrel. Very nice. Tastes like apple. Very nutritious as well. Thank you, Mountain, for your gifts. It was worth coming up here. Take some of that for Tam. The wizard we know as Merlin, he spent a lot of time living in the wilderness. It's a kind of liminal space, the abyss of the forest. And the boy, Merlin, the young boy Emerys, who is in the story I'm about to tell you, he ended up inheriting this mountain, and he spent a long time in his youth just living wild, foraging on this mountain, according to the legends. Maybe he picked wood sorrel in that very spot long, long ago. It's like suddenly the veil just lifts and we're walking in the dreaming then. In the footsteps of wizards, magicians, dragons, and kings. Tracking old gods through the landscape. You're not convinced by my wood sorrel?
Well, it looks very much like clover.
Could be a lookout. Look, this would be, it's like a natural formation. It'd have to be warriors in single file through here. There's a cliff on the other side. I bet this is the approach to it. Look, this could be a little lookout. You can see the path coming through the woods. Sort of easily defendable there at that point. This is prime fortress territory right here. Careful, my love. Look at that, such good views up here. Imagine being the young wizard Merlin, age, I don't know, 12, 13, scampering around here, throwing rocks at Welshmen and Saxons when they come and investigate your citadel. You look like you're part of the tree. It's just a place of magic. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Right, should we go and find a citadel then?
You think it's up that way then?
I think so.
Dead end.
Yeah, I think this is like the scout lookout. And citadel proper is up there. Right, should we go and find a citadel then?
You think it's up that way then?
I think so.
Dead end.
I keep saying citadel. I think you might be very whelmed when you see it. It's just some stones. But what I really want to find is the pool. Apparently there's the remains of the pool, which is where the dragons were unearthed. What a view. Mind blown?
Yeah.
Here we are, a fortress Emerys. Ambrosius Merlin. Here is the summit. Holy shit, maybe this is the pool. Holy fuck. 2 dragons
Wow.
interred here.
That's insane.
Actually, now I look at it, this might actually be the square base of the medieval tower.
Ah, yes.
So the pool is somewhere around here.
Could be the other side where that tree is.
There's the road we're parked on all the way down there. We're literally at the base of this hill. That's where Greenie's parked.
I left the water there, sorry about
That's all right, I can get it in a minute. So this is the square base of a medieval tower. We don't know who made it, but possibly Prince Llewelyn in the 13th century. So the history of this stronghold is complex. It's not a medieval Welsh castle in the typical sense, but some bits of it are medieval, like this square bit behind me, I believe. But underneath the foundations of this is an earlier Dark Age fortress, which dates to the time of King Arthur and the Saxon migrations. But the very earliest bit is probably Iron Age, so dating to the Celtic Iron Age, and that could be where the pool dates from. Don't pull me down the slope, mate. Oh, fucking hell. Can you see our van?
Yeah, it's literally quite close to the edge.
Really?
Yeah, which I don't want to do.
There's the river I swam in this morning. This is such a place for a stronghold. Have you found the pool?
I'm not sure.
Oh yeah. Something else down there. Someone's made a fire in it.
Imagine camping there.
Yeah, I would like to.
There is a pool.
She almost lost her hat. Bloody dragon wing. Blew it right off, didn't it? Hey?
I don't know why I shouted no, King Arthur.
No, King Arthur! This is not cheap enclosure. This is all bits of old castle. Wow. Yeah. This, I would wager, has been used for ritual in the not too distant past, as well as most likely for a very, very long time. Someone's had a nice camp here. Someone has drawn a dragon in charcoal here. You see that? On this stone. Praise be to all the dragons in the land. So I'm guessing if the fortified tower was up there, I'm guessing this is also medieval, maybe a sort of guard house or something. Interesting that they've incorporated the much older stones into the building. I'm guessing this isn't Dark Ages, I'm guessing it's medieval, but I don't know. Could also be modern. Have you been in the pool, mate? Are you covered in dragon shit?
Have you seen the dragon by the pool?
No.
Then I'll go here.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's in the by the pool.
Look here. Someone has made a dragon out of this stump. It's a dragon pool. Right here. So, this is it. This unassuming dew pond here is actually ancient. So this is probably dating from the Iron Age or maybe the Roman period. Probably a place for water for whatever structures were here, but it dates from the very earliest stage. They found the very earliest archaeology around this pool, including pottery, bits of Roman or pre-Roman pottery in this pool. So in some of the oral versions of this story, the dragons that I'm about to tell you, the dragons are interred in clay pots. So this, right here in this landscape, this is where King Lledd, or King Ludd, interred that red and white dragon, the sleeping dragons wrapped up in that mead-sotted silken blanket. They were placed right there in those 2 stone chests, sunk into this hole in the ground and covered over, never to be seen again. Well, that was the theory anyway. Oh, is that almost as good as mead?
Red and white.
Oh, the 2 dragons.
2 dragons.
I knew Coca-Cola had a dark secret to do with reptilians. I'm finding this kind of a bit overwhelming, really. It's like this story I know so well. There's such there's such an important national myth, and it's just this little pond.
Where did you find out about it?
It's in Geoffrey of Monmouth's History of the Kings of Britain. You're right, boy. You're guarding us against potential dragon attacks. Oh no, you just want some. You just want some Welsh cawl. We're about to have some Welsh cawl by a dragon pool.
In a wooden bowl.
Some foraged wood sorrel on my Welsh cawl. My wife has spurned the offer of wood sorrel on her cawl.
You've got some grass on yours there too.
Well, grass wouldn't hurt anyone. This delightful spoon here with a ring inside a fish was made for me by Tamsin for a wedding present. If you would like to buy one of her delightful wooden creations, then visit her website, quinwoodcraft.com. It's amazing from this angle, Tam just pointed out. This dragon is not just a head, it's a whole body of this tree. Yeah, this pool had a lot of pottery found around it when this place was excavated. So some of the stories of these 2 interred dragons, King Ludd interring them in this mountain. Some people say that instead of 2 stone chests, it was 2 clay vases, almost like sort of egg sacs. Almost seems like a sort of alchemical image, that, doesn't it? You've seen that alchemical image of a serpent inside a vase. Very alchemical symbol, dragon.
2 beings in flight, circling. One is day, the other night. It begins. One brings ice, the other fire. We wonder if they'll ever tire. And every bell takes sunrise. The plague on the land has returned. They scream their curses. We lose everything that we know.
So, my friends, I think the time has come for the second half of this tale of 2 dragons. I've been banging on about Vortigern and the wizard Merlin all the way up this hill now, and now we are in the very spot, the very place. So, I've already told you the story of King Lledd, or King Ludd, and the 2 dragons. We've heard already how those 2 dragons were trapped in a cauldron of mead and wrapped in silk, and they were taken away far, far into the mountains of North Wales. They were taken here and they were interred in the ground right here, in a great cave actually beneath this mountainside, and they were sealed up in stone chests, never to be seen again. Well, that was the idea anyway. So that's the first part of this story. Those dragons interred by King Ludd here, and the plague, the shriek that was plaguing Britain, plaguing the land, that ceased. So the next part of this story takes place in something resembling history. We're out of the myth time now, out of the dreaming, out of deep time, and we're now in the Dark Ages. It is the 5th century. The Roman Empire has collapsed. Western civilization has collapsed. The barbarians were at the gates. The Picts were pouring over Hadrian's Wall to the north. The Saxon hordes were advancing from the continent, marching ever westwards. The Irish were raiding the western coasts. And there was a certain king who had consolidated power in the island of Britain. All the little chieftains, maybe some were still loyal to Rome, maybe some were just loyal to themselves, but Vortigern, through guile and trickery and treachery, had undercut all the other rulers and united Britain. He should have been in a strong position. Vortigern, by the way, just means king. So king, shadowy king on the edge of history. Now, Vortigern, he did a very silly thing. He was having trouble with the Picts in the north, so he invited, seems clever on paper, he invited one group of invaders to play them off against the other. He invited the Saxons in. He made peace with them. He even took a Saxon wife. But sooner or later, the Saxons, after kicking the Picts into touch, booting them back over Hadrian's Wall, sooner or later the Saxons betrayed King Vortigern. And he asked his advisors and wise men and his magicians what to do. And they said, you must retreat further into the high ground, the hilly territory in the west of Britain, and there find somewhere suitable to build yourself a fortress and watch as the Saxon armies break upon it like water. So Vortigern had to find a suitable place to build his citadel, and he moved west and west, further and further west, away from somewhere where I live in southwest England, and further away, further into Wales, into South Wales, and into what is now North Wales. Here, this place, what we now call in English Snowdonia National Park. And Vortigern came to this very place right here behind me. This citadel, which then was called the Stronghold of the Pharaoh. No one really knows why there's an Egyptian connection here. So Vortigern gathered his builders and he said, build me a citadel. So they did, they got to work, they started laying one stone upon another, building structures and foundations, and as soon as the citadel began to rise, it was pretty good and Vortigern was well pleased. But the next morning, Vortigern went out to inspect the foundations of his new citadel, but not one single stone was resting on top of another. Everything had just collapsed, and some of the stones had even sunk into the ground that had become soft in the middle of the night and then hardened up again come morning. It was very strange. Vortigern punished his lazy builders and said, get to work! And the builders the next day got to work, double speed. They built even more, built the foundations again from the ground up. They built a couple of stories this time. But the next evening, the same thing happened again. Not one single stone was left standing on top of another. Everything had sunk in the night and sunk into the soft ground right here where I am sat. Vortigern would not wait for a third night. He consulted his wise men, his magicians, his 7 advisors. And they went down to the river, just the other side of this hill where our van is parked, and they did their rites and rituals and lit their frankincense and slaughtered a lamb and examined its entrails and held them aloft to the stars. And by morning, they had an answer. They said, Your Majesty, wise King Vortigern, the reason you cannot build your tower in this place is because we have not appeased the spirits of this mountain. You need to find a boy from somewhere round here, a boy born without a father, a boy born of a virgin birth, and you need to bring him to this place and sacrifice him here and mix his blood with the mortar, then build your tower. Then you will be able to build it high and strong enough to break a Saxon army like water. Well, all the wise men nodded and agreed with this. So Vortigern said, find me a boy born without a father. He said it to the chief of his army. Right-ho then. Boy born without a dad, okay? If there's one to be found, I'll find him, said Vortigern's captain. So off he rode, though, the warriors of Vortigern, and they scoured the land all around here. They travelled far and wide across the land of Britain to find a boy born without a father. And eventually, they found him. So Vortigern's men, they came to a sleepy little village in the marsh, the lowest of the low places, poverty-stricken. And there was a woman there who had a boy who had strange dreams. His name was Ambrosius, or as they say in Welsh, Emrys. So this boy, Ambrosius, again, there are many stories as to who was his father. In later Christian stories, his father was an incubus, a devil, who had come to his mother in the night and instilled a demon boy in her womb to corrupt the new Christian faith. That's a bit of a Christian spin. Other versions of the story say she was a princess. Other versions of the story say Ambrosius's mother was the daughter of a powerful chieftain, a local chieftain who still followed the old gods. In other stories, she's a nun. In other stories, she's a nobody. But I think this aspect of the story is always clear. She is visited in the night, not by a mortal, but by a changeling, a fairy, or maybe an old god of this land. Because she has had a child of a virgin birth, she is outcast. She has to live on the outer rim of the village, in the mud and the shit and the mire. And this boy is bullied by all the other little marsh bog children that he lives with, because he hasn't got a daddy, yes, but because he can see things before they've happened. He dreams things before they come to pass. Little Ambrosius would say, it will rain in about an hour, and then the rain would come, or a man will come on horseback with many cabbages, I don't know. Whatever he saw would come to pass, and this made people fear him and shun him. So one day, when Vortigern's men came looking for a boy without a father, Ambrosius knew they were coming. He was sitting, waiting for them. Now, they had heard the rumour that there was a boy born without a father in this village, but they were surprised to find the boy waiting for him and very willing to go with them. Perhaps he felt the tug of his own destiny. So Vortigern was brought this boy, Ambrosius, probably about 10 years old. He was brought to this very place. And Vortigern was sat here on a throne that was brought up for him, maybe right there. And standing before King Vortigern was this boy who had not a tiny ounce of fear in his eyes and a strange, faraway look in his deep blue eyes. "Do you know why I have brought you here?" said King Vortigern to this strange boy. "I do," said Ambrosius. "Your wise men, though they be not so wise, have told you that the blood of a boy without a father mixed with mortar will help you build your tower. But they are fools and liars, and they do not know why your tower collapses every night." Well, Vortigern was a bit taken aback by this. How did he know? He didn't know that he was trying to build a tower every night. He certainly could not have known the solution that the wise men had given him. "Let me put your wise men to the test," said the strange boy Ambrosius. "The reason your castle will not stand is because something beneath the earth is causing the ground to be unstable. And I bet your wise men do not know what it is." The wise men looked at one another sheepishly. "Have a great pit dug," said King Vortigern, and his builders got to work and dug beneath where the foundations of the castle were, right here, and they found a huge pool Just a few meters beneath the surface, a huge, strange pool. Ambrosius spoke up. Ask your wise men what is at the bottom of this pool. But the wise men had no answer. At the bottom of this pool, said Ambrosius, are 2 stone chests. Drain the pool. See for yourself. Have the pool drained, said King Vortigern. And the pool was drained, and sure enough, just as the strange boy had said, there were 2 stone chests at the bottom. Ask your wise men what is within these 2 stone chests. But the wise men had no answer. You will see in these chests 2 dragons, and they are the reason your foundations fall every night. Have the chests opened, said King Vortigern, and many of his masons got to work chiselling open those chests, attaching ropes and pulleys, and many men heaved the lids off these chests, and ka-doom, ka-doom, and inside each one were 2 sleeping dragons, one red, one white. And as soon as the chests were lifted, both dragons at the same time awoke, saw each other, and flew at each other, fighting, 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 fighting. Now at the first, the red dragon seemed to have the edge. It was pushing the white dragon to the edge of the pool, but then the white dragon bit the red on the neck and drove it right out of the pool, and then both dragons just erupted up into the sky, flying round and round all these mountains here, and the white dragon breathing ice upon all the mountain. The white dragon had the upper hand and was devastating that red dragon, beating it down the mountain, and then they were gone in a cloud, and then the red dragon whirled in the sky and suddenly got the upper hand, and the red dragon chased the white off into the distant mountains, breathing fire after it, and then the red dragon alighted on this hill here, spread its wings, cried, and then took off into the sky and was gone. Vortigern and all his men were silent. What is the meaning of these things I have seen? Vortigern asked this strange boy who could see into the future. The red dragon is your dragon, the dragon of this land, the dragon of Britain. The white dragon is the dragon of the Saxon race, who you have invited over. The white dragon will be victorious for a while, and your reign will end by you being burned alive. But one day, the red dragon will conquer the white after your reign, in the reign of King Arthur the Great Bear. Vortigern grew very, very frightened when he heard these things. He had his wise men walled up in a farmhouse just down here and set on fire. And he found another place to build his citadel, somewhere not plagued by dragons. He built it in the end, and just as the strange boy had said, he was betrayed again, walled up in his own tower, and met a similar fate to his wise men. He was burned alive. So, some more wood sorrel. Lovely. So, Vortigern in the story actually gave Ambrosius this place, the ruins of his castle he had tried to build so many times. So after that place, it became known as Dinas Emerys, or the Stronghold of Ambrosius. Ambrosius Merlin, the wizard Merlin. So Merlin lived here for a long, long time, probably learned much of his magic arts here on this hillside with its energies and old gods. And then eventually he rode into another story, King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table. So there, the story of the red dragon that we see today fluttering on the flag of Wales, and the story of a boy called Merlin. This pool may not look big enough to inter 2 dragons in its current state, but let's assume in the myth time it was much larger.
And they shrink into 2 little pigs as well.
They did shrink into 2 little pigs. She knows the myth. Maybe. I've had that story in my head for a long time, but there's just something about speaking the story in the place where it takes place. Like, this is it. This is where Ambrosius, young Merlin and King Vortigern stood. It was right here. I find that amazing. Like history and myth intersecting. The dragons are clearly with us because some other walkers have just arrived. Allowed me time to tell their story. I wonder when it was last told in this place. Thank you, dragons. Take this offering of a carrot. It sings. And a potato. Potato for the white dragon, carrot for the red. Right, journey on. See if we can find our way back off this mythic mountain of wizards and dragons and foolish kings. Oh!
Why do I keep falling over?
It's dragons in the land, babe. If Vortigern couldn't build a castle here, how do you expect to stand up?
This is the 5th time I've fallen over, including falling over while I was sat down.
Oh, boy, seething with serpent energy. Whee. I don't know whether we can get back this way. Oh, we can go up on this. Oh, wow. Blimey. This is what it's about. Kind of amazed that in July, in the summer holidays, there aren't that many grockles up here. I suppose maybe just the founding myths of this island aren't really that interesting to most people. They are to me though, I'm quite excited.
I can tell.
The tower's over there, isn't it? So I guess this was meant to be more castle around here. That would have been the idea, I guess. I forgot to say that in one of the periods when they did the archaeology on this place, in around the 5th or 6th century, so King Vortigern's time, if we were to put him in history, they found evidence that this had been built and then collapsed and rebuilt many times. So kind of tying in with the myth there as well. Maybe why this myth kind of latched itself onto this place. Because aspects of this myth are absolutely ancient, older than any archaeology here. Little birch. Birch trees are sometimes called a sort of pioneer species because they seed all over mountain tops and in wild places like this and provide shelter for others. Almost like myth and folklore seeds in new places with the movement of people. To see my video on the birch tree, click the link here on the side of the screen. Look, there's a bit of archaeology there, look. Bit of collapsed wall. Wonder if that was a bit of Vortigern's. So, an origin story of the wizard Merlin there. It's interesting, the sort of precocious little child, Emerys, in this story, he sort of reminds me of, if any of you are into Gnostic Christianity or early Christianity or sort of esoteric early versions of the Christian faith, there is an apocryphal gospel, a heretic gospel, called the Gospel of the Infant Jesus. And these are quite common things in this kind of mythology of divine children, of which Jesus is one and Merlin is one. And in this gospel, Jesus is a bit of a dick. he's just really annoying and sort of arrogant because he is the great mystery incarnate. And at one point he actually sort of kills some children. He sort of zaps them because they've been, cheating in a game or something like that, something minor. And then everyone's like, what have you done? Why have you killed my child? That's a bit extreme. And Jesus just kind of giggles and laughs and says, I haven't done anything. Look, they're alive. And then he brings them all back to life. Sort of trickster energy, this. So it's a similar sort of area that we're in with Emerys in this story, I think. The semi-divine child, the bringing together of the divine and earthly spheres. It's a very, very old idea here in a lot of Indo-European myth. Think of Indra, think of Perseus, offspring of a god and a mortal woman. We're in the same area, but the thing with Merlin is he's not a warrior or a hero. He's a wizard, he's a magician. He paves the way, like John the Baptist, for one who is to come after, i.e. Arthur, King Arthur. Sort of feels like it's more rooted in earlier Celtic folklore, really. It's not a great warrior hero, it's a wizard. That's the sort of culture hero of this island, the wizard Merlin. And this is his mountain. Where's there a Merlin?
Just literally there. Can you see?
What, that standing stone? Oh my god, that's mental. Look at that. Yeah, that standing stone. Or is it a man? Is it a wizard?
He's got a white hat on and a white beard. I'm watching him for ages.
So, my friends, it is now the end of the video. We're back from Wales, we're back in Wiltshire, there's the van behind me. And I'd just like to wrap this video up with a bit of historical context to some of this regarding dragons and Arthur and the flag of Wales. So I've told you the legends and the myths, the two stories about these dragons in the land. So maybe it's worth talking about a bit of history as well to see how that links in. The flag of Wales is actually quite a new flag. I think it was designed in about 1960, something like that, 1959, 1960. So 20th century flag, the flag of Wales. Interestingly, there is a dragon on a English flag that is much, much older. It's medieval. It's the flag of Wessex, King Alfred's Wessex, which shows a white dragon. Now it's normally yellow on a red background, but a white dragon, the same white dragon from the story. So two distinct peoples and distinct cultures, the Welsh and the English, drawing their totemic animal from the same story. Technically, I think the English dragon on the flag of Wessex is a wyvern now because of the number of legs. It's only got 2 legs, but I think this is a fairly recent heraldic distinction that wouldn't have been made in the early medieval or before. So this idea of sort of totemic animals then is very interesting. King Arthur is a great bear, but he's also, son of Uther Pendragon. He's also a dragon. So he's got dragon energy and bear energy. Strong look. And many Welsh princes have taken on the dragon, the red dragon, as their sort of tribal emblem. Their Fjulja, if you want to use a Norse term, their sort of animating principle, their guardian spirit, their power animal, if you want to use a New Age shamanic term. And many, many, many Welsh princes have used this. The Tudors, King Henry VIII and his father, King Henry VII at the Battle of Bosworth when he bashed King Richard III, he carried a dragon. Owen Glendower, the great Welsh revolutionary leader fighting English rule in Wales a few hundred years earlier, he had a dragon standard. King Arthur carried a dragon standard into battle. Here it is in a sort of late medieval French piece of art depicting King Arthur, so he's probably one of these guys. So dragons here are sort of, they're a battle standard. And this is interesting. This probably goes back a very, very long way. Some people suggest that the dragon standard as a banner carried by cavalry into war was brought to Britain by the Romans. This is interesting. So a lot of Roman cavalry carried a windsock with a dragon head with a sort of fluttering banner behind it, which was kind of the sinewy body of the dragon. And it was used practically maybe to sort of to inspire awe, and just because it's a cool thing, you know, and also served a practical purpose, doing maneuvers and things like that, cavalry formations. This is interesting because many people suggest or claim that the historical King Arthur, or King Arthurs, I should say, there's many King Arthurs, you know, shadowy at the edge of history, that were probably Romanized Britons, native Britons, fighting off Saxons or Picts or Irish or other invaders. And a few of the main candidates for this are actually Roman cavalrymen that stayed over after the Romans abandoned Britain. Maybe they were Britons that were serving in Roman cavalry units and taken on Roman customs, and they remained to defend Britain. But where did the Romans get it from? Well, they actually got it from Iranian cavalry, Sarmatian cavalry from the Iranian steppes. These were a very fierce horse people. They were really difficult for the Romans to conquer. They had this amazing elite heavy cavalry in full armour, and they had these dragon standards that they carried across the steppes. Where did they get it from? They probably got it from earlier Indo-European steppe cavalry. The Yamnaya, the Aryans, as we used to call them, which were a horse-loving people. And this dragon banner goes right back to Indo-European mythology. So the serpent, the snake, the worm, the dragon, if you will. Some people distinguish between a dragon being a later medieval monster that must be slain, and an earlier sort of chthonic or celestial snake that kind of animates the cosmos and the earth and creates the hills and creates the rains and the storms and produces the water, is to do with cosmos and chaos and order. It is the enemy of the storm god, the champion of the heavens, Thor, if you will, or Zeus, or Indra. There are so many Indo-European versions of this storm god, usually with the power of lightning or a hammer, slaying a serpent or dancing on a serpent, or in some way causing a serpent to release the waters, release the rains. This is the Indo-European origin. It goes all the way back, and it's not just Indo-European as well. You look at the Nagas of India. Naga just means cobra, but there's also a sort of cosmic counterpart to this. Vishnu dancing on the head of the Naga. Sometimes they hold texts underground, keeping them safe. Maybe tantric Buddhist or Hindu texts. They keep them safe underground, a bit like a dragon guarding treasure. Interesting that the dragons in this story are also associated with Oxford, a place of learning. So these early dragons, they're very different to later medieval, wicked, evil dragons. They're a bit more sort of one-dimensional, aren't they? Their role is just to be killed. Although you could say that there is a link there to the Indo-European type serpent, because that blockage is removed. So that is probably the much older origin of the dragon mythos in this story, because these dragons in these stories, they're different, aren't they? They're not medieval monsters guarding gold. They're animating the land. They're connected to fertility. So perhaps there was a Celtic or a proto-Celtic forerunner to these dragons before the Romans even arrived, bringing their dragon standard. What evidence is there for an earlier Celtic dragon? Well, I would say it's the horned serpent that we see on a lot of Celtic iconography, like the gunstrap bowl, sort of more or less Celtic, bit of a mash-up. A dragon sailing through the sky above cavalry, possibly resurrected divine cavalry. So just another little historical link here. I love it when actual history and mythology entwine like two serpents. So just a little something to take away with you there, a little historical nugget there to kind of attach to these stories and this walk up Dinas Emerys. I will do another video on the Celtic horned serpent, the Celtic dragon, if you will. put it here or in the description when I've made it. But for now, here's some more videos about dragons. I'll see you next time, my friends. Goodbye.